Sports Talk Chicago. Here Jon Zaghloul, and we have back and ready for today's special guest. He's the Cubs assistant pitching coach and a former MLB reliever. Please welcome Daniel Moskos to the program. Daniel, it's great to have you on. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
So, Daniel, how'd the Cubs job come up first off?
Came up kind of the organic way where someone reaches out, sees, checks if you're interested, and then the dominoes start falling and you go from there. But I will say, before I took the job with the Yankees, who is the team I left to join the Cubs, I had interviewed with the Cubs previously. So, it wasn't like I was completely foreign. I had already established a little bit of a rapport with, people within the organization. And so, there are some dots that were connected.
What attracted you to this position with this team?
Well, obviously being in the big leagues is a tremendous honor. And so, obviously getting back there is something that I hold dear to my heart. But even more so than that, it's the people that are in place, the vision that they have. I think that they're doing a lot of good things on the developmental front. I think that they have a lot of really, really smart people and a lot of people that are on the same page. And I don't think that can be discounted, is that it just takes one, weak link in the chain to throw things off and completely turn things for a loop. And it seems like everybody has the same vision and all of the, people who make decisions are aligned. So it's awesome.
What is that vision based on your understanding so far?
To me, it's develop, find ways to efficiently spend money rather than just throw dollars at the top tier free agents, dig deeper, make sure you're making smart transactions. But really opening up the developmental budget. I think that's where you can really, really wisely spend money, especially with what a win's valued at the big league level. I just think it makes so much sense to make sure you're making the right acquisitions.
Daniel Moskos here on Sports Talk Chicago. Daniel, tell me about Driveline baseball. So how does that fit into your career, your coaching career, and then what you're going to do with the Cubs?
Well, I really wouldn't be here without them. I don't say that lightly. It's not just a fluff piece. I really wouldn't be here without them. I went to Driveline in 2018 as a player, and I was looking for, anything that I could possibly learn about myself to get myself back into either like a pro ball job or an overseas job, whether that be Japan or Korea, something like that. Because, at that point I was pitching well, I was, doing the things I needed to do, but, my only job offers were in Mexico. And while, you can make good money down there, it's not really, I have a family, I had wife, daughter, and it's not really what I was looking for myself. It was get back to pro ball, make a big splash in Asia, or, maybe it's time to move on. And so I went there, trained, and everything went great. Threw in pro day, nothing happened. I got some feelers, hey, we've got you on a list, but we're not ready to make an offer just yet. And so, I still had the job in Mexico, but what the interesting thing that happened is Driveline approached me about possibly working there. They said, we see how you are with the younger guys, like you've taken on the role of a mentor without even, having to, and you seem to really love the things that we practice here, putting tech, integrating technology with development. And I was like, yeah, I love it. Like, it's awesome. It's things I never had access to as a player. And so I talked it over with my wife. I was like, look, I don't really want to go back to Mexico. This is a seamless transition out of playing and into the career after. Why not give it a shot? See how it goes. So I took a leap of faith, and, the rest is kind of history. I worked there for 9 months and started being approached by major league teams to get back into pro ball on the coaching side. And, here I am. So it's been a really cool story.
What is Driveline, for those who don't know? Why has it become so popular in baseball circles?
Well, they really just changed the way and the view and outlook on player development. They're unfortunately, and I say this with sincerity, is that baseball was kind of stuck in the Stone Age. There wasn't a lot of advancements going on, that we didn't really believe you could teach velocity. We didn't believe that you can do a lot of things, and Driveline, proved that wrong. There's more than one way to throw a ball is kind of what they taught. And, through drill work and, biomechanical analysis and programming analysis and all of these things, you can increase what your ceiling is as a baseball player. And I think that Driveline put that on display for everybody to see. And it's no surprise that you're seeing Major League Baseball adopt a lot of those philosophies.
What kind of results have you seen from it based on your career and other guys you've coached?
So unfortunately in 2020 we lost the minor league season, so I only was able to work remotely. And so you don't get to see season stats associated with that year, but I was in charge of, 15 to 20 players, and every single one of them made positive gains. Some of them bigger than others, but literally every single one of them. And that was through working remotely. I wasn't even able to be in person with them. It was Zoom calls and phone calls and exchanging of videos and things like that. And we were still able to make just tremendous gains, like exciting gains. And then fast forward to actually having a 2021 minor league season, and you look at the staff that I had in Somerset, and we were able to do some really special things. Leading the league in ERA, batting average, strikeouts, velocity. I mean, you name it, all of the important variables, and we led in just about every single one of them. And I'm not doing that to brag about myself. I'm doing that to brag about what you can do on the development front, because some of those kids that, some guys made their major league debuts this year. And some of them were on release lists and cut lists coming into spring training. And some of those guys have been added to the 40-man roster this past offseason. So it really is like potentially a career changing thing for players. And all it takes is a little bit of buy-in, a little bit of trust, and hard work. And those guys crushed it. They worked their tails off. Some of them were taking classes. Some of them were working jobs. And every single one of them found time to get their work in, their throwing, their lifting, all of the things that are important. And they really just crushed it.
Is something similar expected for the Cubs this year once you start to work with them?
I mean, the expectations to me are just always going to be high, because I know what you can do on the developmental front. And the most exciting piece for me with the Cubs is you have so many young guys that are getting their feet wet at the big league level and starting to establish themselves as potential long-term pieces at the big league level. And to me, like, that is the clay that is the most important to mold, because that, it either trickles down or trickles up for the minor leagues. And you want this continuity throughout the organization. You don't want to just develop at the minor league level. You want to continue that development at the big league level too, because the way that somebody said this to me once, and I actually think it was Trevor Bauer that said this, and it really stuck with me. You're not competing against the players you're playing against right now. You're competing against the players of the future. So just because you get to the big leagues doesn't mean you're going to stay there, because there's going to be a next crop. There's going to be a draft class. There's going to be an international signing class. You're competing against those guys. The average velocity has trended up every single year in the past, however many years since we really started to value it. It's not going to stop. It's going to keep going. It'll probably plateau somewhere, but it hasn't plateaued yet. And I don't see it happening really anytime soon. So as long as we continue to push that needle forward and move the needle forward, you're competing against not just current players, but future players.
What about guys like Kyle Hendricks, for example, guys who are more finesse pitchers? How do you expect to work with them when it comes to Driveline?
So I think that's kind of the common misconception, is just because you're a finesse guy doesn't mean that you can't be better at being a finesse guy. And now Kyle Hendricks has elite command. Nobody's going to discredit that. It's unbelievable. That to me is actually something that's harder to teach than anything else. And so if we can, maybe add a tick or two in velo to his fastball, or work on the secondary pitch package to develop something that he needs, maybe to get left-handed hitters out or right-handed hitters out, whatever it is, we'll do a research, a deep dive into what's the lowest hanging fruit for him and attack it. But again, just because he's a finesse guy doesn't mean you stop getting better or stop working. And Kyle's a tremendous worker. So, the fact that, he's willing to take on initiatives like that, having already been a well-established big leaguer, is a tribute to him. And that's part of I think what's exciting is we have a bunch of players in the organization now that have this growth mindset that really want to know what's going to make me better. What can I do? How do I accomplish it? And then we go from there.
How excited are you to work with Marcus Stroman too?
I'm very, very excited. Unfortunately, the signing happened right at the last second, the last minutes before the lockout. And so, we didn't get much on the communication front as far as establishing an off-season plan or things like that. But, the name and the guy speaks for himself. He's an incredible athlete, incredible competitor. I mean, I don't know if anybody is more of a competitor when he's on the mound than he is. And, that to me is exciting. I was always a consummate competitor, probably pitched above what my skill set was. Just because, I was in attack mode at all times. And that's how Stroman carries himself when he's on the mound. He wants to make your at-bat as uncomfortable as possible. And, I think he can be great, especially, the veteran presence for the younger guys, kind of show them the ropes, lead by example. I think it's a great addition and one that I'm really excited about.
What do you make of the Cubs pitching staff as a whole? When you look at this rotation and the relief options, what do you make of it?
A lot of exciting pieces with a little bit of development can be a potentially special group. We've got some younger starters starting to establish themselves in Alzolay and Steele, adding, goodness, I'm drawing a blank, Stroman and Miley. That really, I think, provides a big boost. And then, we've got a bunch of electric arms in the bullpen. Some of those guys need to refine skill sets a little bit. Maybe iron out some like platoon splits, things like that. But, that's stuff that just gives us direction. It's not like to me, it's not an impossible task. It's not a difficult task. It just takes the direction, takes the plan, and then you execute on that plan. Some of those guys have the potential to be really, really, really big time back end pieces for us. We've got good bridge guys. I mean, it's an exciting group of arms.
What do you think about Alzolay? There's been talk here that he could become a reliever. Do you see him as a starter or reliever? And what do you think his plan should be for improvement moving forward?
So I will look at it this way. Like, it's awesome that he will always have kind of that bullpen insurance policy that we can, cash in on if we need to. But to me, he's a starter all day. I like the body. He's strong. I like the delivery. And more importantly, I like the mentality and I like the work ethic. The dude wants to go to work. He is so receptive to coaching. He's kind of just the guy you dream of. Like, you want all of your players to be like him because he's so engaged on the plan and just literally always working to get better. And it's hard not to love guys like that.
Are you expecting a better performance out of him come this year?
Absolutely. I think we've got a good plan for him. For the off season, he's going to put in the work. And, I think he's going to get a chance to, take the ball, hopefully for 25 to 30 starts this year.
Let me ask you this. Who on this team do you think would most benefit from your expertise?
That's loaded question. Tough to really like pinpoint on a specific guy because, when you start to evaluate plans for guys, you just look at what's their lowest hanging fruit. And so everybody has their own individualized plan. And I think they're all going to benefit from it because it's check this box, move on to the next box, move on to the next box. And all of them have boxes to be checked and we've set plans for them. And so I'm excited. Hopefully we can get Major League Baseball and the owners talking to the players union and ironing some things out because I just want to get to work with them. That's the exciting piece for me. I can't say that one's going to benefit more than the other, or, I like the outlook for one person more than the other. I just want to get to work with them. We got a bunch of exciting arms and I can't wait to actually get to help try to develop them.
What's your goal for this season?
Win as many games as possible. I know that everybody's talking about how the Cubs are in a reload/rebuild. And I'm sure it looks that way on the surface as, we traded away some valuable pieces and some well-known names at the deadline last year. And, it's tough to replace a Javi Baez and an Anthony Rizzo and a Craig Kimbrell and all of these names. They will be missed for sure. But just because the big name is gone doesn't mean the production's going to suffer, in my opinion. I think we have some guys who can take really big leaps this year. And build some confidence towards the future. And so, I don't have a season outlook just yet. But, hopefully my goal is that we turn some heads and, we're a, unexpected contender in the Central and, we can go from there and just build on it.
Do you think that's possible with the talent you have, despite trading away all those guys?
I do. I think I definitely think it's possible. Is anybody going to expect it? Are the pundits going to be talking about us? Once we get to spring training, who knows? But we will see how it goes. I know that we have a good group in place. We've got the talent. We've got the people in place to develop the talent. And so I think that hopefully we turn some heads.
Daniel Moskos here on Sports Talk Chicago. Daniel, how would you characterize your playing career?
A roller coaster ride, as most people's are. It didn't, I would say, I'm a very honest self-evaluator. I would say it didn't go the way that I wanted it to. Obviously, I did break into the big leagues. I had some success there. And then unfortunately I got hurt at the wrong time. But there's some things that if I was to have maybe been drafted in 2013, 2014 instead of 2007, maybe my career could have looked a little bit differently. When I went to Driveline, I needed a breaking ball, and with some pitch design and some advice from some really intelligent people, I left there with 2 breaking balls and a cutter. And so, there were just things that, like, we weren't looking into spin rate. We weren't looking into, pitch grips. We didn't have Edgertronic cameras or portable TrackMan back when I was playing. And so there's all these resources that players now have at their disposal that I think would have significantly boosted what my career could have been. But if you want my honest truth, everything happened the way that it was supposed to. Everything happened for a reason to get me to where I am now. Most people don't know this, but my last team in professional baseball that I signed with was the Chicago Cubs. And then I failed my physical. And, that's a tough, kind of red flag to shake, and, effectively was a death sentence for my career. However, that led me to go to Mexico. It led me to meet a guy who had trained at Driveline. It led me to look into Driveline, to go to Driveline, to then get into coaching, to get the job with the Yankees, to then get the job with the Cubs. And, so all those dominoes could only fall if the first one fell. And unfortunately and /fortunately, that was me failing my physical with the Cubs. And so it's tough not to be romantic about baseball. And the way that this has come full circle, the Cubs effectively ended my playing career, and yet they're beginning my major league coaching career. So it's tough not to just sit back and admire that, how it's come full circle.
I read an article saying that you didn't know why you failed your physical. Is that true?
So, it's kind of a combination of things. I've had 2 elbow surgeries, which, one kind of led to the other. One was a cleanup, then it finally blew out and I had Tommy John. And then I have bad hips, and, I had a 10-year playing career, worth of innings on my shoulder. And so it was, kind of we don't love the hips. We don't love the shoulder. 2 elbow surgeries. Is this guy a ticking time bomb? Maybe. But I did go on to play 18 months straight after that and make 160 appearances without missing a day. So, it ends up working out in hindsight. It's like, well, dang, I wish that had gone differently. But like I said, everything happens for a reason. I have zero ill will. And, I really, truly believe that I'm in the place that I'm supposed to be now. And, impacting more people's career than my own, I can live with that.
What I found funny, too, is your only time in the majors, you had a 2.96 ERA. You were effective. Why do you think you didn't get as many more opportunities?
Well, unfortunately, the following spring training is when I first had my first elbow injury. I was pitching in a live batting practice and felt like a little bit of a jolt. And I was like, I didn't feel very good. Next day, I was a little bit sore, got some treatment, and was relatively fine. It was essentially some arthritis, had some bone spurring and stuff like that, but the ligament was okay. And then, it just got a little bit worse, was harder to recover. So the end of that year, I went in and had a cleanup. And then, the cleanup was okay. It was put a Band-Aid on it, but I wasn't back to myself until I had Tommy John. And once I came back from Tommy John, I was great. I had Tommy John in middle of 2014, came back in 2015, pitched at the end of the year that year, went down to winter ball, parlayed that into a job with the Padres and had a great year with the Padres. Spent the whole year in AAA that next year in 2016, pitched really well. And that's what got me the job with the Cubs. And then unfortunately failed the physical. So, I would say that I wish that I hadn't gotten hurt when I did, but again, everything happens for a reason. It all works out the way that it's supposed to.
Daniel Moskos still here on Sports Talk Chicago. Daniel, a few more questions before we finish up. First off, the toughest hitter you faced was who?
There's a bunch of them. So if I forget somebody, hopefully they don't take offense to it. I will say one of the toughest has to be Adrian Gonzalez. I faced him when he was in his prime with the Red Sox. Granted, his prime was a pretty long window, but, he was in the middle of his prime with the Red Sox. And I came in to face him in a 1-run game. And I think it was either runners at second and third or bases loaded. And I was filling in for the starter. And, I was able to induce a ground out to end the inning, not give up a run. That was a really cool experience. It was at home. We had 38,000 people. It was loud. It was, a really cool moment. And he's just an impressive hitter. Also got to face David Ortiz that series, another, well-known hitter in his own right. And he put a ball into the river at PNC Park off of me. Thank goodness it was foul, but not a lot of people hit the ball that far. So, it was one of those ones where I was actually like watching the ball travel and the umpire was trying to throw me the next ball. But it was really, really impressive. And again, there's a ton of good hitters that I faced. Vlad Guerrero, I'm really fortunate to have faced Vlad Guerrero. And that was really fun for me because the scouting report on Vlad Guerrero was like, if you're going to miss somewhere, miss middle. He doesn't really hit the ball middle. It's everything else that he hits. And, lo and behold, I face him. I throw him a first pitch changeup, and it is literally like dotted on the black, down and away. And I get balled, and it's 1-0. And I'm like, wow, can't throw him a much better pitch than that. He just spit on it like it was, a piece of cake. And I'm like, what do I do now? And so I throw him another changeup that literally would have bounced on home plate. It was a dirt ball, and he lined out to the third baseman and probably hit it 110 miles per hour. And I'm like, well, if that isn't just a Vlad Guerrero at bat to a T, then I don't know what is. So one of those cool moments that you look back on, you're like, wow, that was like exactly how it was supposed to go.
What's it like when you watch somebody nearly hit a home run off you? How do you recover? Like when you talked about the David Ortiz moment.
Well, so I'll tell you, you can use your own assessment of the situation. I'll give you this scenario. It was 3-1 count. I threw him a fastball that was supposed to be in that I left middle, and he hit it into the river foul. 3-2. I threw a breaking ball in the dirt and walked. so how do you adjust? You don't throw another fastball and you end up walking him. Not exactly how I would want my pitchers now to go about that, because the one pitch he's probably not looking for there is another fastball. Probably should have doubled up in with a fastball there, but you know what? Hindsight's 20/20 on that one.
How about your favorite hitter? Somebody so easy to retire. Who would that be? Might be an insult to somebody listening, but
the pitcher spot in the National League. And this is going to be fun because the two pitchers that I actually faced in my time in the major leagues was one Roy Halladay and two Chris Carpenter. So really, really special guys to get to face, and no surprise that they were still pitching when I came into the game as a reliever, because that's what they're well known for, is pitching deep into ball games. But I'm pretty sure I did strike both of them out. So I'll pat myself on the back for that one. But the pitcher spot's definitely the easiest hitter to face.
Did you ever get in at bat when you played either in the minors or in the majors?
No. Well, so I hit in the minors. I was a starter in Double-A, and so that's when you start the hitting if you're facing a National League team. Not a very good hitter. Depth perception not great. Struggle to see spin, and anything over about 88 these days is probably going to blow me away. But I was really good at getting my sack bunts down, at least. You know what? I can at least, hold myself accountable there.
And Daniel, before we finish up today, last question. What's been the funniest moment that you've been a part of in your career?
Oh, does it have to be in the major leagues, minor leagues? Do you have a preference?
Anywhere you'd like.
Well, I do know that there was a spring training game against the Blue Jays. And I threw a fastball, and the guy hit what I thought was a line drive back at me. And I panicked, flinch. I'm flailing my arms at the ball. And it was he hit the changeup back at me. And it was right after I got done flinching, the ball hit me in the chest. I fell back down on my butt. And thank goodness it's just a spring training game, but I scramble, pick up the ball, and throw him out at first. But I was just wow, that had to have looked really, really embarrassing. And we went back and looked at it at the tape after, and I was just wow. And this is why they say pitchers are not athletes, because that was not an athletic moment. It was really, really bad. Another one that was really funny is a comebacker that was hit back at me that was hit as hard as I expected to, actually knocked my glove off of my hand. And so then I'm running after the ball with both hands. Never had this situation on the mound before where I've got no glove on, and I'm running over, I pick the ball up, and I'm I don't know how to pat without a glove on, and I just shuffle and throw a ball over there. I'm wow, that was equally as embarrassing. That was terrible. Thankfully that one was in the minor league, so not too many people saw it. But just those funny little things that happen where it's just outside of expectation, I think are hilarious.
Daniel, thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate the time. Best wishes this year with the Cubs, and I'm sure we'll be checking in again soon during the season. Really appreciate the time.
Of course. No, thank you for having me. It was a blast.